Welcome back to the Death Star, everyone. My self-converted Ford Transit that I've had for 3 years now. I've lived in it full time for the past 2. I van dwell in New England. If you're new to my channel, my name is Matt. If you're a returning subscriber, I got some great news. I got my disco ball light fixed, which is back there in my shower. But more importantly, the topic of today's van chat is about the cost of van life. The cost savings of van life, and is it really worth it? I know a lot of people get into van life for various reasons, some for the glitz and glam that they see on social media, others to escape an abusive situation. But for me, it was always about travel, specifically to save on hotel and rental car costs. I sat down and I did a deep dive analysis of just how much van life has cost me compared to how much living in an apartment cost me before. And lastly, I put everything together, compared it to how much it cost to build out my van. And at the end of this video, I'll tell you exactly how long it took for me to break even for all the cost savings to recoup how much it cost me to build this van. So not to yap any further, I thought I'd dive right into the first analysis I put together. So the first and foremost thing, obviously, is hotels. When I was an apartment dweller, I would vacation 4 weeks out of the year, and I would buy hotels for pretty much every single night of those vacations. On top of that, I found myself buying a hotel night pretty much every Saturday. What I would do is rent a car and go up hiking in New Hampshire, and I didn't sleep in the car or anything like that. I always just got a hotel or a motel. That's the only way I knew how to sleep. And I discovered that in the year 2019, which was the last pre-pandemic year when I traveled the way I used to, I spent almost $13,000 on hotels during that year. The way I came to that number was I spent 62 nights in hotels, which averaged to $169 per night. Obviously, sometimes I got cheapos, sometimes I had to pay an arm and a leg in some city. And I used this government website to calculate inflation, comparing 2019 to 2024, the year we're in now, because I felt it would be unfairly advantageous to compare apartment life to my current situation if I didn't account for inflation. Since I've had the van, I have bought hotels. It's totaled me about $1,800. Most of that was I went down to New York City for almost a week, and that cost over $1,000. Also, one time in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, I had to pay for a hotel there. That was like $400 or something. I just could not find a place to boondock. It's a very tightly compact, very secure city, Jackson Hole. So I bit the bullet and bought a hotel. Aside from that, I've hardly bought hotels at all since living in a van. I just sleep in the van. The next one is rental cars. This is huge. When I rented cars, not only did I have to pay for the car itself, I had to buy the insurance because I didn't own a car. And sometimes the insurance costs more than the car itself. I calculated that it costs on average almost exactly $300 a day to rent cars. Back in 2019, I rented cars for 42 days. Yeah, like I said, I was renting cars pretty much every weekend to go up to New Hampshire for 2 days. And then when I was on vacation, I rent every day. Obviously, since having the van, I haven't rented a car ever. I do, however, have to buy car insurance now. My policy is about $2,800 a year. And I use pay-per-use parking lots a lot. I think I've calculated out to about $18 a week. Those two things combined is about $3,200 a year I spend now in car insurance and parking. Gas. This one is big, and this is where van life gets you. So when I rented cars, I determined that the average miles per gallon I got in those rentals was about 28. 18 miles per gallon is what I get in the van. So the van is only about 65% as fuel efficient as those rental cars were. I'm spending $95 a week in the van. So 65% of 95, I think, is like $56, and I rented cars for 62 nights. So that came out to $364 in gas I had renting cars in 2019. $95 a week though in the van is close to $5,000. Obviously some weeks I don't move much, I don't have to buy gas, but when I'm doing a cross-country road trip, I could be spending almost $100 a day on gas on a big driving day. The last travel cost that I accounted for, which was significant, is dinner on the road. This is something I'd never really thought about, but I got a fridge in my van, which has allowed me to buy groceries very cheaply at a grocery store and stock up. So when I go on my road trips, I can just cook in the van and eat cheap grocery store food. When I rented cars, I never had that option. I would either stop at a Subway or something, but more often than not, I would eat at hotels. Or, I'm sorry, not hotels, but restaurants, pretty much every night. I also drank alcohol back in those days, and alcoholic beverages were crazy expensive in 29. They're expensive now, but they were expensive back then too. Some of you might say, why didn't you just get a cooler when you were renting cars and save you money that way? That's a fair assessment, but when I was renting cars, you had to keep in mind, I didn't have a car. I had to walk 3/4 of a mile from my apartment to the car rental place. And when I dropped it off, I would have to walk from the car rental place back to my apartment. When I was doing that, I'm already dragging my luggage in one hand, holding a day bag in the other hand, and have my camera bag on my back. I wouldn't have been able to also drag a cooler with me all the time. A cooler is great if it just lives in your car. It would have been totally impractical for me. That's why I never had a cooler and just bought food on the road. So yeah, my dinners on the road in 2019, the restaurants, and also going to clubs and stuff, something I don't do anymore, $3,200. In the van, now $744. And I showed my math on that. Dinner on the road when I was renting cars came out to about $52 a day, and grocery store food comes out to only about $12 a day. And I used the 62-day figure there from my vacation time, because back when I was living in an apartment, obviously when I wasn't on the road, I was just also cooking grocery store food cheaply. So that aspect is pretty much a wash. Also, I say dinner on the road, not my daily meal, because back then I would go out to breakfast every morning and buy my breakfast. I still do that since having the van, so I haven't saved any money there. That's a wash, so that's not in the chart. So in total, I'm saving about $21,229 a year in travel costs. That's something that Vanlife has enabled me. That's pretty significant. The second category that I analyzed is housing costs. This is distinctly different. The categories I put here are stuff that's not related to moving. I factored in gas in that other chart. I factored in dining in that other chart. In this one, the most obvious housing cost that you have in an apartment is rent. So I was able to look up the current rent of my old 1-bedroom apartment in Boston. It's now renting for $2,650 a month. I wasn't paying that in 2019. It was significantly less, but had I not got the van, I would still be living there. That's what I would be paying per month. Obviously, since having the van, I haven't paid rent in 2 years. Mail, when you have an apartment, the mail just comes to your apartment. There's no fee associated with that. Since having the van, I have gotten myself a P.O. box, which receives 95% of my mail. I think I pay like $160 every 6 months or something to have that P.O. box. So there is a cost associated with mail. It's also worth noting that certain things you cannot get to a P.O. box. You cannot get car-related stuff. You cannot register your car or get DMV stuff to a P.O. box. They will only mail your house. So it's important to have a trusted family member or friend that you can use as your residential address. Also a place that's accessible that you can drive to regularly to get your mail, and also, just to say hi and keep in touch. That's key. Third housing cost is repair. This is where van life gets ya, unfortunately. When I lived in an apartment, if something broke, I could just call my landlord. He didn't always fix it promptly, he didn't always do a good job, but I never had to pay a dime for that. With the van, however, I have had to pay more than a dime. In the past year, I paid $4,820 out of pocket. It's worth noting that a lot of my costs were covered by warranty because my van is still less than 3 years old. When that warranty expires, I expect these costs to go way up. That $4,800, that's repairs to the van, plus oil changes and, all the preventative maintenance. Cleaning. So in my apartment, I sat down, crunched some numbers. I bought cleaning materials, which is like paper towels, toilet papers, cleaners, maybe once a month. Came out to about $20 a month I spent on that stuff. Not significant at all. With the van, I clean my van every week. It's $10 to hose it down, $3 to vacuum the inside, plus I go through a crap ton of paper towels. I spend $20 a week on cleaning the van, which comes out to over $1,000 a year on cleaning related stuff. A van gets dirty, what can I say? And I can't stand living in dirty. I keep it clean as much as I can. This is another aspect where van life can get you. So, totaling all of those, I have saved $25,850 a year in housing costs living in the van compared to living in the apartment. That's a lot. Obviously, that all comes from rent. And the thing you have to keep your eye on is all the repair stuff. Like I said, that could go up and my savings could go down. So, putting it all together, my annual savings on travel, $22,000. My annual savings on housing, $25,000. That's $47,000 a year I am saving now just from that van life has enabled me. That's pretty significant. Now, I also wanted to find out how many years I had to live in the van to break even from the cost of buying my van and converting it. My van cost me $75,000. Actually, I paid $62,000 for this van in 2020. But according to that government inflation website, that's $75,000 in today money, which is kind of crazy. I bought my van new, that's why it was so expensive. And the cost of building it out, $42,000. Building it out costs way, way more than I ever anticipated. That's probably going to be the case with you too. If you think building your van out is going to cost something, triple that number. The most expensive thing I got was my Rixson hydronic heating system. I think that cost $9,000. I got the Topo 4.0 lift kit by Van Compass. That was like another $5,000 to install and purchase. I got Falcon tires, 5 of them. That was another $4,000 or $5,000. I got the lithium ion battery bank. I got a big battery bank. That was another $3,500. Yeah, those things I just mentioned alone is $26,000. And I also spent close to $15,000 on Home Depot, just on nuts and bolts and tools and crap I don't even know. If I could do it again, I wouldn't buy a new van. Also, I would buy a lot less stuff. I bought a lot of build stuff that I tried, it didn't work, I threw it out. I wasted a ton of money doing that stuff. So according to this chart, it should have taken me 2.5 years to break even to recover the costs that I spent on the van. I can tell you that is not the case. It actually took me 2.9 years. The reason I know that is to buy my van, I cashed out a brokerage account, and I have only just now, like within the past 2 weeks, brought that brokerage account back up to where it was before I cashed it out, and I'm just shy of 3 years owning the van. Also, my mother lent me some money to buy the van. Factoring that in, I would say it takes more like 3 years to recover the costs of moving into a van. I also realized that people's van purchases are going to be different. Some people buy new, some people buy used. People's income levels are different. You know, van life is different for everyone. But I noticed on other van life channels, they all reach the same conclusion, about 3 years to break even. For example, Chrome from Van City Van Life, it took him 3 years to get out of debt and break even from van life. I thought that was just interesting, that it seems to be 3 years for everyone, no matter where they're starting from or what their annual costs are. Okay guys, so if you're wondering if van life is worth it, yeah, it's definitely worth it if you're willing to do it for 3 years. That's my conclusion. So thanks for watching my video. If you're new to my channel, thanks for sticking around. Like I said, I do a van chat once a week. I mostly do exploration across New England in the van, show you cool sights. If you are new to my channel, please hit that like button below. If you made it this far, it's all I ask. It takes a fraction of a second for you, but it helps me big time. If you want to become a member, hit, which is that join button below. That will immediately unlock a bunch of new videos because you get early access and I schedule ahead. Anyway, thanks for watching everyone. I hope to see you all come back on my next video. Not sure where I'll be. I'll do more van chats. Anyway, peace out.